Big fluff.
You were like a dog fetching a stick over and over. You tell the kid what happened to the old crew. You tell him that everyone that walked with you dies by my hand.
Not this time.
Your soft-skinned mother. Your gunslinger friend.
Face me.
Your whimpering excuse for a dad.
Stop hiding behind your magic and face me, Walter!
We both know that no matter who crosses the finish line first, the universe will die out eventually. Death always wins. That's the deal.
Hello again, I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Andy McIntyre.
And this is Silver Linings Playback, the podcast where we watch maligned movies and we find their silver linings.
And after 3 weeks of trudging through the Overlook Hotel, we are now at another Stephen King movie. This time we watched The Dark Tower, which was a loose adaptation / prequel / jumping off point for a non-existent multimedia franchise that happened in 2017, starring Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba.
Yes, I have a lot to say about what you just said, but I'll start with yes. That is why we're here.
All of those things are true.
Yeah.
I said no lies.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't even know the best place to start, but I guess just as clear as any place to start is this is not good.
No, this movie is bad.
Yeah.
I was sort of pondering about should we debut a new segment on the show called Sarcastic Silver Linings to kick things off?
I'm down to try it.
Okay. So my sarcastic silver lining is that a recurring theme in the Dark Tower series of books is time displacement and people being unsure of where they are. And this movie nailed that for me because there would be like half hours that go by. Like, did I watch it? What's happening? Where am I? Did I pass out? Like, was I brain wiped? What happened?
How long have I been watching this movie? 2 weeks, 3 months? It's hard to say.
Have I always been watching this movie?
Yeah. No, I agree with you that it really did capture that feeling. I think, obviously unintentionally, but nailed it.
Listen, if it was intentional, this is now the best movie ever made.
Yeah, if it wanted us to experience what it was like to be tortured by the Man in Black, then absolutely, like, it captured it. Like, we walked right into his trap.
Via time dilation by rat people, then nailed it.
I saw Time Dilation and Rat People open for Anthrax in '98, and both of them kicked
What a
ass.
show. What a show.
It's a triple bill that I'll never forget.
Listen, Rat People's second album, a lot of people maligned, but I think it was even though it was a real departure from the thrash metal roots that they had on their first record, yeah, they really came into their own as artists, I feel like. And I was shocked that they hadn't even surpassed Anthrax as a headliner for a big bill like that.
Yeah. And people talk about the sophomore slump, but I find that album, I agree with you. That's when they came into their own. That's when they got a little bit more experimental. They didn't just rely on the shouting and the theatrics. And they really, I think, had something to say, which is that they are rat people and they will devour your souls. And I think that was clear.
Yeah, if it wasn't clear on their first record, We Are Rat People and We'll Devour Your Souls, it was more clear on their second album, Trees.
And now in the third in the Rat People, We Will Devour Your Souls trilogy, Hugs for All, Kicks in the Nuts for some. I did think they dropped off a little bit. Like I will admit
the third
that.
album it felt a little like, because I think they listened to the critics too much of Trees, and they decided to go with more of like trying to get back to capture like that new experience of We Are the Rat People and We'll Devour Your Souls. And
it felt sarcastic. Like it felt pandering. Yeah.
Hugs for All, Kicking the Nuts for some. Best title of the three.
It's great. Yeah. I loved the album art. I loved the marketing. But yeah, just the album itself. You maybe get the one or two tracks that are pretty good, but the other ones I'll listen top to bottom, full album.
Oh no, they're front to back. They're no skip records, both of them. for sure.
Yeah.
No, the whole B-side, the whole, like, you know, if we're thinking about the vinyl release, the whole second side, so like tracks 4 through 8 on Hugs for All, Kicks in the Nuts for Some, it was just a mishmash. Like they were trying to sound like something they weren't.
And they started doing skits. I really hated the skits.
Yeah, leave that to the Wu-Tang Clan. All right.
Yeah.
Leave the skits to the rap records.
Well, except the Fugees too, because there's nothing worse than listening to a Fugees album and then, like, you know, you get to the end of Killing Me Softly and you're like, what is this? Why is this on here?
However, I will defend the skits on Wyclef Jean's The Carnival.
Yeah. Well, that's like the whole thing is the trial.
Yeah. Be sheep.
Anyway, we've gone far astray now, and we're going to be back on track because I do have a lot to say about this movie, The Dark Tower, which like I said, we started by saying that it's bad, and I think maybe just, you know, where to start is just to say I think all of the instincts are wrong in this movie. You know, you've and just stay with me, like, hear me out, because like you alluded to it that, you know, it's, you know, you started talking about the books and stuff, and like so in the book, in the first one, The Gunslinger, you're launched into this world of the gunslinger, and it does this fun thing where it's like, it's the Old West, and you're like, okay, so that's what this is. It's very clearly inspired by Old West stories, and you're kind of going along with it, and you're following his perspective, and he's a very clear archetype character. You've seen this guy a million times before. He's Clint Eastwood, you know, he's just like one of those types of guys. Like, and then little stuff starts happening where it's like, okay, but there's a wizard, and okay, but like they're listening to jukeboxes, and like also they're referencing 1960s and 1970s like pop music. And so something weird is happening, but you don't really know what. And then he goes further on in the adventure, and this kid shows up, and then the kid is talking about stuff from our world. And it's like, okay, so the kid is from our world, but he's in this world. This world is clearly like pulling things from our universe, but like it's not. So it's just like, it's this fun experience of like, where am I? It's familiar, but it's disorienting. It's, you know, is it in the future? Like, when is this taking place? Like, all of that is a really cool way to launch the story. And this one inverts all of that, puts you immediately in present day, our universe with the kid, and then introduces the gunslinger through dreams, and then launches the kid into that universe, and then takes away a lot of the things in that universe that are, you know, like out of sync with what we think that, like, it just makes it an Old West world. It doesn't have these weird, like, you know, offbeat things in it.
These weird anachronisms. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this book is a weird, like, I guess officially it's like it's a prequel to The Dark Tower, the first the Gunslinger book, which is actually a super fun adventure story, and arguably one of the better books in the whole Dark Tower series.
Yeah.
And I would say the series as a whole is probably worth it. A little overblown, a little bit. You know, it didn't need 4 600+ page tomes to be part of it. I'm just going to say that, like, it didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first couple books are really fun. But yeah, this movie takes weird bits from the first 2 books, especially The Gunslinger and The Drawing of the Three. And like, it doesn't work linearly.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, yeah, all of the instincts of how to tell the story are just off in this movie.
100%.
Yeah. And it's also like, I don't know, it's changing a lot of things. You know, obviously it like modernized the kid, you know, put him in current day, which I understand, but like, it really changed, but it changed his backstory a lot, like his actual like family and stuff. And then it also just doesn't do a good job introducing us to the gunslinger and the man in black, and like, you know, it's just like who they are and what their deal is and like what the tower, because again, I think like the adventure of finding that out in the books is really fun. And in this, it doesn't have the time to explore it, but it just ends up feeling confusing instead of, it doesn't feel like you're unraveling anything. It just feels like everything is really thin.
Well, yeah, like maybe one of the best, like Stephen King's Call Me Ishmael line comes from the gunslinger. The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. That's how the story starts. And that's also the entire story.
Right. Well, and it's just like, it feels weird to me to not just make that movie. Like I feel like I'm just hammering the same point over and over again. But if you were trying to launch this world, if you were hoping to make this a series of films, then why would you not just do the Western that was all took place in that world and then hope that it's successful enough to then expand it into all the other things you want to do? But like, you could film it on a backlot where there's a bunch of Western sets and probably make it probably way cheaper than what this cost and just kind of do the first book.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Stephen King did it right. So why change it?
Right. Yeah. You changed it into something worse.
Which is a weird thing to say. Which is a weird thing to say when Stephen King did the book The Shining perfectly. It's a great book.
Yeah.
And then Stanley Kubrick's like, no, I got it. I got other ideas.
Well, here's the thing. Stanley Kubrick made something awesome. So
yeah, he did.
He was Stanley Kubrick. You get forgiven for a lot if then you make a Stanley Kubrick film. It's also funny because we spent the last 3 weeks talking about the Shining miniseries. And I think Ron Howard, who was involved at one point, he was attached to direct, and then he was still a producer on this. I think he even later admitted this should have probably been a miniseries, or if it came out now, it would definitely just be a TV series.
Yeah,
and it would
be a prestige HBO TV series.
Right. Which is funny too, because the other thing that I read that you probably read as well is this started this film that we got. The origins of it were that Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, and I think J.J. Abrams, I think it was all three of them, owned the rights to adapt it while Lost was on the air. They had, like a desire to adapt this, and then Lost became such a big hit that it, they never really had time to do it. And that's how it ended up. The rights eventually went to Ron Howard, who was going to direct it. And then Ron Howard produced this version. But it's funny to think about, for a lot of reasons, and especially because Lost definitely went off the rails because they didn't have a plan. What if in a world Lost was canceled or failed or whatever, for something happened that allowed them to not finish Lost and to make this?
And hear me out on this, they had the discipline and didn't get greedy and ended Lost after like 3 seasons like they should have.
Or that. Yeah, they wrapped up Lost after 3 seasons. Now, I want to say I did read Burn It Down, so I want to be clear. They were also still monsters in the writer's room, and I want that on the record that they were terrible people to their writers. But in general, like, there's a lot of problems with the making of Lost. But on a creative level, and if you look at Damon Lindelof, who seems like the one, by the way, who's remorseful about the way things went in Lost, unlike Carlton Cuse, just for the record. And also, to be clear, J.J. Abrams was not involved in the writer's room because, as always, he pitched a movie, took a pile of cash, and left as soon as possible.
I have one goal in life, and that's to be pitched a movie by J.J. Abrams, because I have to assume it's the greatest experience in the world.
J.J. Abrams, and I've said it before, is the real life music man, and you will definitely walk out of a meeting with him broke and really excited for a project that he just pitched you on. Like, that's definitely how it goes.
Yeah, I just have to believe that you've got to leave feeling so good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They gave him Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah, he did both of them.
After Lost. He had already done Lost, and they saw how that turned out.
And he got to do a Mission Impossible.
Yeah, and I think he produced all the subsequent ones as well.
The good ones?
Like, yeah.
Or the great ones?
Yeah.
Because
ones.
1 and 3 are good. 4 on are, well, yeah, 4 on are great.
Except
the
the last
Macquarie
one.
ones especially. The last
Except
one's
the
not
last
good. I
one.
haven't seen it. Yeah,
No.
that's too bad.
And it's a shame because, again, you know me, I'm the biggest Christopher McQuarrie defender in the world. But
yes,
his
you will
last
go to bat
film,
for him. Which is, I think, why your opinion then matters more, that if you're willing to say that he wasn't that great this time.
Yeah. Yeah. But he made 3 good ones and 1 not great one.
And Brad Bird did one too.
But even the Brad Bird one.
Ghost Protocol rules.
But I was going to say McQuarrie was heavily involved in that. That's when he
Yeah.
came on to Script Doctor. So anyway. So all of that, to take all of that in, Carlton Cugh's probably a bad person. Damon Lindelof wasn't great when he was making Lost. Seems like a better person now. Just want all that for the record. Yeah, to imagine a world where they make, like you said, 3 seasons of Lost, they end it. We're like, Lost is a great show. And then they get money from HBO, let's say, to be like, what do you want to do now? And they're like, we want to make the Dark Tower. I do think it suits them really well because, again, the whole mystery box thing. And this time it's all planned out for them, so they don't have to scramble to answer things in the end. But I think they would be good at sort of using the skill set that they had at Lost to roll this out and to introduce us to the world and then kind of give us flashbacks and flesh out, who the gunslinger is, like who the kid is, all of that. I think it would have been the best version of this possible would have been if they got to make a TV show version of it, because The Leftovers ruled, which is Damon Lindelof, adapting a book series. Watchmen was really great. Like, Lindelof is really talented at doing this stuff. And I think he could have done something special with this series.
Yeah. No, I think it could have been great. And I hope at some point they do try to do some version of the Dark Tower as a whole series. There was another attempt in 2020 that went nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem inevitable, like in our world of IP and also like we've been talking about it this month. They're at the point where they're adapting Stephen King books that are like written under a pseudonym early in his career about guys just walking a long time.
Yeah, just taking a long walk.
So I don't remember what that one's called.
They're not even a running man. They're just taking a long walk.
Yeah. But long walk walks so running man could run. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah, like, no, this movie had the budget, had the stars, had a lot of things going for it, but just like the narrative and creative choices, I think it really boils down to just being a poor narrative starting point and not like just not doing the simple thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, just to I guess zero in on it a little bit more too. Like I said, one of the fun things about the books is that their world has these sort of echoes of our world. And not only do they not do that, but they make it so that like the whole movie, Idris Elba is just like, what are you talking about? What is this? A hot dog? Never heard of it. Like there's a lot of that instead.
Are bullets super rare in your world? You're going to love our world, Idris Elba.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. And then also, another strange thing about this movie is they strip out all of the religious stuff, which is like most of it. Like,
yeah,
like it's a very strange thing because literally in the books, there are towns that think that the Man in Black is like Christ, that he's God and that he's going around. And there's all this talk that it is the end of days and that like Judgment Day is coming. And this movie just drops the religious stuff completely.
Yeah, like no, that the man in black, who is like Walter Pembroke in this iteration, but is also the same Randall Flagg that's in The Stand. Like they're all the same entity, demon, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, he a lot of people think he's Christ because he is an antichrist figure.
Right. And he does
and that's like
miracles.
Central to the theme.
Yeah, like he's going around doing magic and doing miracles. And so and he, well, that's another thing I think that we do need to really zero in on as well, is that in the book, he's like a trickster, sort of, where, again, there's a reason people can believe that he is God, because, like, from a certain perspective, sometimes he seems like he does a lot of stuff that feels like it's, he's giving you the rope to, like, he's tempting. He's a Satan figure. So he's tempting you.
Yes.
And an example of that is, like, in the first book, it's there's a character that he brings back to life, and there's a woman that's a bartender, and he basically tells her, like, hey, like, if you ever want to know about, what happens when you die, he'll tell you if you want. You just say this word to him, and he'll answer all your questions about the afterlife. And then it's just like, anyway, I'm out. And so it's like, that's what he does, of, like, he knows if he leaves someone with that tempting of a, like, do you want all your questions answered about what happens when you die? This guy'll do it. And, like, that's a horrible thing to offer someone, but it's a really fascinating thing. It, of course, in the book drives her insane, as it would. But that's what he does in the book. In this, he just goes around, and he's more like, what is the name of that character? The character from Jessica Jones, like the one that David Tennant plays.
Kilgrave.
Yeah, he's Kilgrave, where, like, in
the
this,
Purple Man.
Yeah, he just, like, he tells you something and then you have to do it. And he literally, like, tells the dad, stop breathing. Yeah. And it's just like, that's not the same thing at all. And it's, and it's less interesting. And then also, the movie is in no way interested in explaining, then, if you have those powers, why doesn't he simply just say to, like, the gunslinger, like, shoot yourself in the head? Like, why?
It also seems like his powers have no range.
No.
Like, he can say it about anybody in the world. And it's.
Yeah, which, again, it's like with Kilgrave, that's terrifying, but they make it so that Jessica Jones is the one person who it doesn't work on, and so then now that's an interesting thing, and in the book, the dynamic, like, there's a couple things that are just fundamentally different about their dynamic, which is, one, he doesn't do that. He just sort of tempts people with evil, like, offers. And the gunslinger is aware of that. So he's more, like, has his guard up. And even then, he still walks into traps. Right. But two, like, that he also seems to want the gunslinger to follow him. Like, he's being followed. Like, and in this, it just seems like he is trying to escape and he's failing at it, but he has more godlike powers.
Yeah, no, the book is very much like the gunslinger thinks he's chasing the man in black, but really he's being lured.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, that's exactly the dynamic. Yes.
And in this, he's just, it's Roadrunner and Coyote almost, but
yeah,
like the villain is the person running away.
Yeah, he is chasing him, but the person that he's chasing is all powerful and can do anything at any time, and yet that person can't escape him for some reason.
Yeah, it's dumb and bad.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear on that.
No, this, like, it just, the choices made to this is the version of this story that you decide to tell are utterly baffling.
Right. Yeah.
And it would be one thing because, like, a big recurring theme in the books and everything is sort of the cyclical nature of time. And I hate to say Wheel of Time because that's another fantasy story, but the idea that there's a constant loop and it's just the cycle of repeating, not unlike, Eastern religion concepts of, like, karma and reincarnation and things like that, that if this was like the first few episodes as a way to disorient the audience into thinking that you're seeing the full story, but no, you're seeing the reset. Like, there's a way that you could make that work, but not with a standalone movie.
No, it would be great in a series if the first few episodes of the series all sort of open the same way to create that feeling of, like, wait, is this last week's episode? Did I already watch this one? You know, that could be really fun to explore.
If you start the first episode of the series with last week on, with the recap.
Yeah.
All right, listen, write this down, because when we write our TV show, we're doing this. After we write our like standalone TV, like our standard TV show, when they let us get artsy with the second effort.
Yeah.
We will
immediately go completely cerebral and inaccessible in our second show.
Yeah, we're going to go full third season of Westworld.
Perfect. I think we do need to talk about, because obviously we've given a quite an amount of time to what if, Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse had gotten to make The Dark Tower. And I do think I would like to see that version, but I don't want to go too far past what if Ron Howard had made this, because are you telling me you wouldn't love to see Clint Howard as the gunslinger?
Clint Howard would have played the Jackie Earle Haley role, and you know it.
Look, in my fanfic of what would have happened, Clint Howard, definitely the gunslinger. And then Ron Howard is the Man in Black.
Yes, Ron Howard, famous for casting himself in his movies.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's why he does it. Or what? Actually, I take it back. He's not the Man in Black. Ron Howard plays the narrator.
The Man in Black.
I'm chasing the Man in Black, but he really wasn't. It's just like a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Well, and here's the like, we can joke about Ron Howard, and he has a many and varied filmography. Some of it utterly amazing, others okay. But it would have been safe and good, I think, if he had done it.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been great, but it would have been better than this. I think that's where I land.
It would have been safe and good.
It would have been much like Solo, where it's not the good version of Solo that we could have gotten if they had let Lord and Miller do it, but it was watchable.
It was safe and it was good.
Yeah,
it wasn't
the best. It on time. They finished it on time.
Yeah, it was turned in ahead of the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and Nikolaj Arcel, the guy who ended up directing this, doesn't have that impressive of a filmography. Like, it hasn't gotten a ton of work after this, shockingly.
No, which is also, I want to be clear about this movie as well, that like you suggested this and I was like, this movie exists. I learned about it when you pitched it to me. That's how much this, which, like, considering that it is for many people their favorite Stephen King series. Like, people, like, love The Dark Tower. I remember, all the talk of like, is he going to finish it? And then when the new books would come out, and like, people revere this series. And so for the first movie of The Dark Tower to come out, and they must have just dumped it in January, and like it was immediately forgotten.
Yeah, no, I remember, because I started reading these books, I don't know, like 2008, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit before 2006. And so when the final book, The Dark Tower, came out, like I was already like, I was able to read it like in sequence. Like when I finished the rest of the books, then I got The Dark Tower. It wasn't like that was sitting on my to be read list for a while or anything like that. So I think, and then that put it not too far away from when this came out, a few years. So I was sort of like locked in on the idea. I was like, ooh, a Dark Tower movie with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. That sounds interesting. And then the reviews were terrible, and I didn't watch it until yesterday.
Yep. And
that's how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I want a good version of this. But that's like, I don't know. The only truly, well, there's, and then I stopped myself because I thought of a second example. There aren't a lot of great adaptations of Stephen King works. There's three.
Okay, what do you think they are?
I'm counting The Shining because the movie's so great.
Mm-hmm.
Stand By Me and Shawshank.
You don't think Carrie's good?
Yeah, Carrie's pretty good. All right, I could be convinced of Carrie. Like, but is it great? I think it's iconic, but is it great?
I mean, I like that movie, the original.
That's fair. I could be convinced of Carrie. But like,
Yeah.
I really liked the It miniseries. I wouldn't call it great. I really liked the Stand miniseries. I wouldn't call it great. I really liked the It duology that came out like 5 years ago. I wouldn't call that great either, but I did really like it. Haven't seen Apt Pupil, but that could have been kept the 4 seasons streak going, because that's where Stand By Me and Shawshank both come from. All 3 of those come from the same book.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a lot of really good and there's a lot of iconic stuff. Like Pet Sematary has its place. But I would always defend that Stephen King is a great writer and has done amazing work, because I think that's an objective truth.
Yeah, but I do think his books are hard to adapt. And it's funny because even on your list, 2 of those movies are not really faithful adaptations, in that The Shining and Shawshank Redemption both take like big departures. You know, with Shawshank, it's just they really had to build out the world because it was a short story. But like in both cases, like they're not that faithful to the text. Like they really did their own thing.
I would argue that Shawshank hews a little closer than The Shining. I think with Shawshank, I think The Shining, oddly enough, holds narratively truer, but characterization wise less true. Whereas Shawshank, I think those characters on the page are the ones that show up in the movie. Like Andy reads like Andy, Red reads like Red, like that all like holds very true. But then like the more hopeful ending, and there's other things that made it just to make it more, because like in the short story they go through several wardens. Like at one point Hadley becomes the warden, but it was easier just to keep it the one guy the whole time. There were choices that were made that just made more narrative sense as a film. But yeah, they're not like super faithful, but they're not unfaithful either. Well, they're their own things, because movies are different.
Yes. But I do think his stuff is difficult to adapt. And it's funny because we did talk about the fact that I think that has really driven him mad over the years, that now he's at the point where they're getting approval to cast Mark Hamill in We Walk a Bunch, that he gets final say now because of how many bad adaptations have come out of his thing.
Yeah. It's interesting because like when they talk about like Gravity's Rainbow being near unadaptable, or Confederacy of Dunces, or a lot of those other like really heady books, I think Stephen King is a great writer. I think that a lot of it is very vivid and straightforward. So it's surprising at how challenging a lot of his stuff has been to adapt.
Well, I mean, again, I feel like I'm just dunking on this movie, saying the same thing over and over again. I do think The Gunslinger was pretty straightforward to adapt. Because again, it's so inspired by spaghetti westerns, and just like there is literally a genre template for how to make this movie. Where it's, I mean, in a lot of ways, like it's Shane, it's a gunslinger with a dark past is like redeemed by protecting a child,
Except then the kid dies.
Yeah, well, but yeah, it's just like, but that's,
sorry,
that's
spoilers for a 40-year-old book.
How dare you? But you know what I mean? It's like most things in it are literally meant to be evocative of the movies that Stephen King was watching, like when he was growing up, I assume.
Yeah, no, I think that's objectively true. And yeah, like normally we reward big swings on this podcast. I feel like that's a standard thing that we silver lining. This was a big swing and an even bigger miss.
Well, right. It was a big swing, but the batter was facing the wrong way and then got hit in the butt with the baseball. So, it's hard to reward that
everywhere. And yeah.
And then everyone slipped in the poop, and then like they all started throwing up because of how gross it was.
Right. And then a meteor struck and burned everything to the ground, and it was a bad day.
Except the poop. That was still there.
The poop was on the meteor, and the meteor's like, oh, now there's poop on me. Oh, all the places I could have landed. It's a big planet. I land in poop.
Yeah, it was a talking meteor, if that wasn't clear.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. It was voiced by Seth Rogen.
Oh,
there's poop on me.
Which, by the way, just because that sort of happened randomly, Ron Howard did some great work on Seth Rogen's show, The Studio. Just want to throw that out there. Like, really loved Ron Howard playing himself and all, but like a really mean version of himself on that show, which is great.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm ready to pivot. Are you ready to pivot?
I'm ready to pivot.
Let's pivot. So I would say, even if they remade this movie tomorrow, I think you could still cast Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba in those roles, and it would still be fine, and it would probably be good. Yeah,
casting perfect. No notes.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I love both of them. I was reading that I think they offered McConaughey the gunslinger role, and this was in his era of like wanting to play villains, which I do think McConaughey is really good at. Like, I thought he was good at playing a weird creep in True Detective, and like where they wanted him to. That was another one where they wanted him to play the role Woody Harrelson played. But I like this gear of his, and I thought he was really good playing the Man in Black. Well,
and I think that if you wrote the Man in Black closer to the source material, I think he would play the Antichrist figure very well. The seems fair but is actually foul type situation.
Well, McConaughey always kind of feels like he's about to start a cult. He's like pounding on his chest and rhythmically chanting and just talking about how his life is amazing because he believed it would be. Like, that's kind of cultish.
No, I read his book Greenlights, which I think is a great read. In the wrong hands, that becomes the Bible for a cult.
Yeah, 100%.
And I say that and I say that both as a compliment and an insult to that book.
Yeah. Want to be clear. Also read it. Agree. So,
so that brings us to our next point. Come to our meeting next Sunday where we're going to talk about Greenlight. It's a book club for Greenlight. That's all it is.
Yeah,
nothing sinister.
It's a book club for Greenlight, the sacred text that, we may get older, but that text always stays the same.
All right.
All right.
All right. All right. But yeah, and Idris Elba, I think would maybe even a decade later would even be better as the gunslinger, because like the aging gunslinger is like that's the archetype, and he's older, so that might work better.
Yeah, he is kind of young at that point to be playing it. Also, I love Idris Elba so much, just to be clear, and he needs a great movie role because I'm not quite convinced that he's had like he was in The Wire, and that's fantastic, and he was one of, if he was great in that. Like Stringer Bell's an iconic character.
I'll give him The Long Walk playing Nelson Mandela as a great role, but I don't know if that's a great movie.
But it's like, I just don't know that he's had like his iconic movie role.
Yeah. No, I don't think he has.
Yeah. Like, I like the Suicide Squad, like him in that.
Yeah, but that's not,
but it doesn't really count. Like that's
what was his character's name?
He played Johnny Suicide.
There you go. I don't know. It's not. I just remember knowing it's not Deadshot, which is who Will Smith played.
He definitely played. We wrote this character for Will Smith's Deadshot, and then he dropped out. So we did a find and replace of other DC Comics character that we could have Idris Elba play. Yeah. And it's not Deathstroke, who's the other one
it's
that I can
think
of that would have fit. But yeah,
and it's not Deadpool.
No, because that's a Marvel character who's a ripoff of Deathstroke.
Right. Kind of.
Because of, kind of, but also like literally Deathstroke's name is Slade Wilson.
Yeah. It like in like looks and motivations, but like very different in the way they played out.
Yeah, he became
Idris Elba's character name.
Yeah. What was it?
Bloodsport.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's if you don't know the character's name, you can't call that an iconic role. But he was great in it.
He was.
I
think
that's the thing is he was great as Heimdall in the Thor movies.
Yeah, but what an underused character. I kept waiting for something more with him.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, the casting is perfect. I think the movie looks good. And I think the action scenes are fun.
Yeah.
It's all the non-narrative stuff about this movie. Thumbs up.
I did like as just its own scene, the scene where they, are talking to each other where, McConaughey's like astral projecting himself. He's not really there, but like where he's in the gun store.
Yeah. The gun store scene was really great. And
like that, I thought that was a good use of like the guy firing at Idris Elba, but being like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, and then that was a fun bit of stakes because then it was like the gunslinger could have killed him at any point, but he didn't want to shoot to kill, which made it harder to just evade a guy who's shooting at him, but doesn't want to be. And that was fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, that scene was great. The fight in like his little base where he takes the kids with the Shining and shines them at the Dark Tower. Like that was the fun last action sequence. Stuff blew up real good. Also, like it did make me genuinely curious, because like Stephen King's books are all so connected, but like and the way that that's a joke in The Simpsons was actually a little surprised that they were able to just say The Shining, that they were able to call it The Shining and just like make that true in this book. Like that is interesting that I guess that term is not, just just considered part of the property of the Shining book. Yeah. And I wonder, because I'm sure the IP law of that is weird because you have, Stephen King owns the books, but then there's the movie rights and who owns what. And it's like when they have to figure out like, what characters are Spider-Man characters versus like what characters, because they're all Marvel characters, but Sony has rights to some of them and like, Disney has rights to others and they always have to negotiate. And then when the X-Men existed, that was like a whole other thing. And that's why like weirdly, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were able to exist, but then they couldn't say that their dad was Magneto. So you like get those weird kind of things. But I just was genuinely surprised that they could call it The Shining. Like I would have thought they would have had to show it, but not be able to say what it was. Yeah, but there were a lot of like this movie had a lot of Easter eggs that were kind of fun. Like in the doctor's office, there's a picture of the Overlook Hotel. It was Pennywise amusement park was probably the most obvious, like ham-handed one, and also the kids having the shine. But they did do a lot of that, which like alluded to in a cheesy way, but still kind of fun way. I thought it was weird that everyone slept on Carrie's dirty pillows, that was the brand of pillow that like in this world, I guess she's like Mike Lindell, I guess. Like I thought that was weird. It was weird to have Sissy Spacek come out and shill for Republican presidential candidates. And the fact that they were dirty pillows, like you would think that pillows. like why would people buy them if you're advertising? I guess that's like ironic. I thought that was weird. That was a weird choice. Yeah, I don't know. But it was fun that like the people that were cleaning the gutters in the one scene, it was like it's gutter cleaners, right? Like yeah, but it was like kind of weird about the floating, like the tagline. Yeah, it was that like all of the life preservers were "You'll float to Pennywise flotation devices." Yeah, that was fun. And then there were times it was weird when like, you could tell that they were really stretching and it's like they're just in the desert and they're trying to get to McConaughey. And then all of a sudden they're like, the kid's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, that's an old pet cemetery. And then like they went a little further and then he was like, what's this? And he's like, that's a pet cemetery too. And I was like, okay, we get it. There's the scene when they ride on the train and like, oh, there's no chairs. I guess we'll have to stand. Yeah, it was like, now you're just, and then like one point when they were being chased and he looked at Idris Elba and he was like, what should we do? And then he was like, I'd start running, man. And it's like, okay, Well, and then even the next line after that was like, well, I guess we'll have to stand. Why don't you stand by me? I mean, which is weird, too, because it made more sense. The other reference that they also had, which is when the gunslinger just kept asking him if he wanted to see a dead body. Yeah, right. That makes sense. And, when they talked about how good Jake was at learning, he's like, wow, you're a really apt pupil. Other Stephen King reference.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that every door was just a poster of Rita Hayworth was a little lazy, I thought.
And they had to crawl through tunnels.
Yeah. But yeah, those were all they're
all in the movie. They were all in the movie.
Yeah.
Cujo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I got. Cujo.
But I mean, I think we did it. I think we
did it. Yeah. Don't watch this movie.
No, don't at all watch this movie. And also, Hollywood, adapt this. Make this a TV show,
please. Do it right as an 8-series TV show. Get Lindelof on board, Weiss and Benioff, whoever, somebody. Joel and I will do it. Screw it.
Yeah. Look, all these other teams of white men, like, they had their chance. Let us adapt a book. Yeah, we have beards, and also we won't be complete monsters to our writer's room.
Whoa, hold on. Okay, yeah, no, we won't.
Silver Linings Playback is a production of HoboTrashcan.com. If you enjoyed the show, please rate or review it on Apple Podcasts. Hear more great shows on the Peak Sloth Podcast Network.